No. He's
He-
bald headed. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I've
real
seen
heavy
a
stuff.
couple of channels like that though. That when they go
Oh, I
in
think I've seen
the
him.
people.
I watched his Appalachia video, which was really interesting.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
for real?
yeah. He
I
gets
want
in
to see that.
detail
Man.
He
about things.
he's very good at.
It's a good channel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right, I'll check it out. I'll check it out.
Political observers said that fear, particularly that sparked by racial tension, played a major role in determining the result of the New York primary. Those tensions were heightened 3 weeks ago when Yusef Hawkins, a 16-year-old black youth, was killed by a group of whites in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn. Hawkins was in Bensonhurst to look at a used car. His attackers reportedly mistook him for someone dating one of the white girls in the neighborhood. In the
Who believes that? Who believes that? There's
I
nobody.
didn't even catch what she said. My fault.
Political observers said that fear, particularly that sparked by racial tension, played a major role in determining the result of the New York primary. Those tensions were heightened 3 weeks ago when Yusef Hawkins, a 16-year-old black youth, was killed by a group of whites in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn. Hawkins was in Bensonhurst to look at a used car. His attackers reportedly mistook him for someone dating one of the white girls in the neighborhood. In the aftermath of the murder, correspondent Elizabeth Brackett went to Bensonhurst to examine the attitudes of some of its residents.
How about it, guys? Come on down, play the game, be a winner over here. Play the game, be a big winner over here.
The crowds were down at the Santa Rosalia Festival in Bensonhurst this year.
Our business is very bad.
What do you attribute? Why is it bad?
I don't know. People don't come out.
It wasn't hard to figure out why. The festival is only 2 blocks from where Yusef Hawkins was gunned down a few weeks ago. The whites charged in the attack, all Bensonhurst boys. The killing jolted the city and the country. Bensonhurst felt the anger. The neighborhood, its culture, its attitudes were blamed by many for Hawkins' death. Marianne Patch, half Italian, half Polish, lives here. She says the neighborhood has gotten a bum rap.
What they're doing now is being protective of themselves. They don't like the finger pointing. They don't like the generalizations. What that young man did in shooting was wrong. There's no excuse for violence whatsoever. However, just because it was not right, but it wasn't necessarily racial. There were other elements involved. It wasn't. We have black people in the neighborhood all of the time.
Some blacks and other minorities do live here, but not many. Over 150,000 people reside in the Bensonhurst area of Brooklyn. The 1980 census figures showed that over 93% of them were white. Less than 1% were black. Those numbers have changed somewhat over the last 9 years, but Bensonhurst remains very white and very Italian. Italian is heard almost as often as English in the neighborhood. Close to half of those who live here are recent immigrants.
See, this is another immigrant community that interacting with blacks. And Italians didn't like blacks either. They call them moolies and shit, moolians. They don't like blacks either.
What is that? Do you know why they call them that?
Moolie is like brown or black in their language, like Moreno or some shit like that.
Yeah. You said why
yeah.
kids like them?
What do you mean? Why you think they don't like them for the same reason?
Because of their hair texture?
Yeah, the hair texture. Salute to 45 Revolver, man. She says Patricia Cullis last 2 of her mansions in the 5. Oh, wow. That's crazy. I didn't know that. That Black Lives Matter lady lost 2 of her mansions. Yeah. I gotta look that up, man. Salute to Economics A11. He says black voters in America's biggest issue. Cali wouldn't be burning. We're the only reason Kamala thinks she had a chance. Yeah, that's true.
Mostly from Sicily and southern Italy. When immigrants find their way to this neighborhood, they find a community much like the one they left back home. Laundry flies on backyard lines, religious statues guard neat row houses, and around the corner, pasta stores bring a sense of the old world to the new. Sociology professor Jerome Kais studies urban neighborhoods. He says Bensonhurst does tend to be an insular, isolated community.
They're very concerned about their families and their children. They're very, very protective. They're living in a hostile environment. New York City is a hostile environment for children, for people who don't know the city. And what they've done is they've kind of replicated the defense of their communities in Italy, which they've done really for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's easy to transport that culture over here and use that as a way of protecting themselves against the outside.
Bensonhurst's reputation as a tough, hostile, racist neighborhood did not begin with the killing of Yusuf Hawkins. Books, movies have reinforced the neighborhood stereotypes for years. This film, released last year, is having a renewed run at the video stores. Last year's Hollywood version was not that different from this year's reality.
UPRs shouldn't be dealing the drugs here in Bensonhurst. Don't you know that?
19-year-old Diana Forti works in a local beauty parlor. She has lived in the neighborhood all of her life. She says it is one group that perpetuates the stereotypes.
There's a lot of punks in the neighborhood who carry golf clubs in their cars, bats, who walk around like they're tough guys. My uncle's this one, my uncle's that one. You don't know who you're messing with. They all have that macho, wise guy image.
Is that important in this neighborhood? To be a wise guy? To be a mafioso?
To them it is. To them it is, yeah. To a lot of the wise guys in the neighborhood, it is.
They are f***ing horrible, man! They get sucked!
The neighborhood wise guys were there when blacks, led by activist preacher Al Sharpton, marched into Bensonhurst to protest the killing of Yusuf Hawkins. The protest turned ugly, and the neighborhood once again took the heat. The result has been to isolate the neighborhood even more. Few here will talk to reporters who they say have blown the recent events out of proportion. But the Clinny family did agree to let us join their dinner table to talk about what has happened in their neighborhood. Mariana and Leon Clinny both grew up in Bensonhurst. They met in high school and were married shortly after graduation. Both 35, Leon works as a building engineer in Manhattan. Mariana is a beauty operator. Their 14-year-old daughter, Tara, has begun her freshman year at her parents' old high school this week. 10-year-old Jason is in the 5th grade. The Clinny's lives center around home, family, and the neighborhood.
What do you like about this neighborhood? Why do you stay here? Because all my friends are here, my family. I can go out and say hello, take a walk to the corner and stop and talk with people. I know where my children are. I know if I'm not around, somebody will watch them, you know. I feel comfortable here.
My family's here. They've always been here. My kids love it here. I'd have to drag them out of here to get them out of here right now.
Is this a safe neighborhood for a family?
Yeah, it's a pretty tight neighborhood. It's safe.
After the shooting and the press coverage, the Clinnys know that's not the way others see Bensonhurst.
This neighborhood is known for tattoos.
Not that. It's just the neighborhood
muscles.
Is not.
I don't know, I was saying Guidos and tattoos and muscle guys and.
Yeah, but see, they got
it's
they
their
don't
own
understand.
people.
Yeah, but plus too, like it's not going to be like 50 carjackings in that one neighborhood a year.
Yeah,
There's not going to be like
police
30
themselves.
murders. Yeah, like what they're talking about, like is like just like a bunch of like tough like mafia type dude. But those mafia guys, they're like they have rules.
They're like border control.
Yeah, they have have a code. In black community, the gangsters don't have anybody can kill anybody in the gang. You could be the leader of the gang, and any little 15-year-old can whack you. Like it's no structure in the black
Old people can get whacked. It's random. Women, there is no rhyme or reason to anything.
Yeah, so
it's
like,
when I was just in Italy, the Southerners and the Northerners got beef with each other.
Right, yeah, definitely. This is, but I can understand her complaining about it because, she never lived in the Sun community.
Yeah, if that's all she knows, that's the worst thing she's ever had to see.
Yeah.
You know, they're saying all these things. Stupid. I thought it was stupid. I have 2 tattoos.
And they're
I'm not
associating everybody
stupid.
with it. And it's not fair.
So how do you?
In the 80s, this woman didn't look rough. That hairstyle, that was like Bon Jovi type hairstyle. This was popular hairstyle for white people.
Aki, you think about it though, those gliders, right? Those gangsters, their impulse control is impressive, right? Because if you have a guy stealing from you, you want to kill him then and there, but these gliders gotta go through all these steps and talk to
Sit down. Have a sit
you gotta
down.
sit
And
down,
shit.
get permission, and then you whack them. That's impressive.
Like,
Yeah.
even in crime, they have structures. Very amazing.
Yeah, and a lot of times dudes don't have that, and they whack somebody, and now they got a fucking answer for that shit. You know what I'm saying? So at least you know what I mean, and you don't have to answer to the police. You got to answer to the gang. And yeah, so I mean, like they, and sometimes they'll tax you if dude's a bozo that you killed. But if you kill somebody who's like, you know, got clout, a made guy or something like that, they'll kill you for killing him without asking to kill him. So it's like, yeah, we all seen the mob movies. We all seen all the mob.
Do you think the rest of New York and the rest of the country looks at your neighborhood now?
They look at it like they're writing it up to be.
Yeah.
Because they're not here and they don't know it. You know, they just have to.
Christopher. Remember Christopher? What's his name? What's the last name? Christopher from the Sopranos.
Believe what they read or see on television.
We have everything here.
So basically, black people, a black dude came through there acting like an ass, got his ass whooped, and died. And now this community is known as the most racist place on earth.
And look how the media was even being used then as a weapon against gliders trying to stop sun degeneracy infiltrating their spaces.
Yeah,
I
man.
want to know if he was trying to buy the car from the guys who
Nah,
killed him.
it wasn't.
Or
it
they were
wasn't,
just walking past. Like,
Nah,
what are
he
you
was-
doing
he
in our
was-
neighborhood?
He was over
Like-
there. I think he was over there. He was up to no good. And I forgot the story because it was so long ago, but he wasn't over there to buy no car. That was like Rashad. No, what's not Rashad Brooks? What's the guy? Jacob Blake was breaking up a fight.
Yeah, the
he-
guy that was like with the boots that was running, going on a jog.
Yeah.
What's his name? The one with the one
Mark
that
Arbor was jogging. Yeah. He 16-year-old buying a fucking used car. The 60-year-old son thug going to Italian neighborhood to buy a used car.
I told you, everything. White, black, Spanish, Oriental, Mexicans, everything. Their neighborhood doesn't. Their neighborhood doesn't. We have everything here. My children are exposed to everything.
Okay. Would you say this neighborhood is racist?
No. No.
Some of them.
Right now, it's
Now they made it.
yeah.
Very racist.
Right now, you got some of them out there are acting ridiculous. You know, they're looking for it.
But you
But you have that in every
You have
neighborhood.
the handful that off.
You have that in every neighborhood. I'm sure the people that came down here to march, there was a group in there just waiting to go at it with us. I'm sure of it. Just like there was a group of us waiting. You know, it's with everybody. That's how it is.
You know, everybody in the neighborhood says we're not prejudiced. Yet this incident happened in Bensonhurst.
Right.
How do you reconcile those two things?
Could have happened anywhere.
Can't reconcile it.
Could have happened
Happens.
anywhere. It happens every day. How come only this incident was made such a big deal out of? It happens every day, everywhere.
Just don't happen every day.
Yeah. See,
So she's calling them on their bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
Just don't happen every day.
You said it was unusual.
Doesn't happen every day. It happens, especially an incident like this. The way this happened. I mean, you read about crime in the city, but it's not the same. This is different.
Do you think it was a racial crime?
Yeah. But you're always going to have a handful of people that are racist.
But these are neighborhood kids. These kids lived here.
Probably involved in their
They're
protection
racist.
groups. And he's probably the spokesperson who they sent out to talk to the media.
Well, I mean, he
Defiance.
probably thinks it was a fucking racial event because he's been. I remember when this happened. It was rappers. Rappers was talking about this in their raps. Like it was like you would have thought Bensonhurst was
Oh, so it's like
literally
a mini George Floyd.
yeah, but
Okay.
it was like he was an angel and he just walking through a white neighborhood and they just attacked him. And that was and Al Sharpton was very, very good. This when Al Sharpton was fat, man. He was a beast, man. Like him and Jesse Jackson, they were bad.
They
can do it. Salute to Herman, man. Herman coming through, man. Shout out to Herman. Salute to Deluxe 247, aka Cal Ripken, aka the real MVP, coming through once again. Now this guy, he probably just like, yeah, look how he had the him and Hall about it. He don't know. He like, well, I saw it was racist. They said it on 60 Minutes last night. They said it was racist. I mean,
An incident like this, the way this happened. I mean, you read about crime in the city, but it's not the same. This is different.
Do you think it was a racial crime?
Yeah. Well, you're always going to have a handful of people that are racist.
But these are neighborhood kids. These kids lived here.
Mm-hmm.
They're racist.
I don't know them personally, but I would imagine they are.
Do you think blacks should be afraid to come into Bensonhurst now, Tara?
I would be afraid to go in their neighborhood because I don't know if they would do something to me, but I think they should be afraid because I don't know what anybody's gonna do.
We shouldn't be afraid, and they shouldn't be afraid.
It wasn't like this before everything happened. It was just like everybody that hangs out now. If they see a black person or something, they would say something about them, like something.
Basically, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson coming through with the 10 o'clock news, with the Washington Post, the New York Times, and telling everybody that this town is racist has made them racist. But before this black thug came through and with his riffraff and got his ass kicked and died, it was just like, I guess just stay over there, black people will stay over here. Now they're literally racist now. That's what I'm hearing. Is that what y'all hearing?
I'm just hearing a bunch of Juice Crew talking points about why this is just the same thing they do today. Just try to bully gliders into accepting sun degeneracy.
Yeah,
that's why I don't know. I even feel like the word racist is being that they're using it, but it's in the wrong context. Because it's not racist to be protectionist for your community. Like you don't have to allow non-gliders into a glider community. Like it's just it aggravates me so much because it's the same thing in the UK. Oh, there was no sun person, no tiger, no desert demon. They're race. Like you're not race. You are allowed not to want. You're allowed to want a hegemonic community that looks like you, talks like you, and just have that. This whole thing of acceptance is just insane.
They're the only ones that can't do that.
Yeah.
What is this nigga doing here? Something like that. I don't know. Just things.
What do you think when they say that?
It's not right. Because it's just a person.
Do you say anything?
Yeah. I say, just shut up.
Is that hard to do?
No. Because I used to like a black person.
If you used to like a black person, was that hard to do in this neighborhood?
Yeah, because people say a lot of people say things like that I'm a nigga lover and all this other stuff.
How'd that make you feel?
It makes me feel stupid, but I don't care.
The Clinty's 2 children have picked up surprisingly different attitudes towards blacks.
She's like now.
Yeah, I love my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And those people are trying to ruin it. They're trying to take it over. And I don't know.
What do you mean they're trying to take it over?
I don't know. They think they're so much better. But
who does?
Who thinks they're so much better?
The blacks. Like, one march is enough. They keep going on for 10 more, and then they want another killing, then there's going to have to be more.
Wow, the young boy said it straight.
He said one march was enough. Then they got
And as I said, he's probably an uncle to mixed race children, judging by his sister.
Oh no, I don't know about him.
It makes me feel stupid, but I don't care.
The Clinty's two children have picked up surprisingly different attitudes towards blacks.
Well, I love my neighborhood, and those people are trying to ruin it. They're trying to take it over, and I don't know.
What do you mean they're trying to take it over?
I don't know. They think they're so much better. But
Who does? Who thinks they're so much better?
the blacks. Like, one march is enough. They keep going on for 10 more, and then they want another killing, then there's going to have to be more, and then another.
What are you talking about?
They're looking for trouble more.
Tara, what do you think about what your brother just said?
I don't know. This neighborhood, I love my neighborhood, and I'm never leaving it, but everything's shot. Like, everything's wrong. Now nobody wants to walk around because they think that something's going to happen. I don't know. It's a big mess.
Anything you can do to end it?
No.
Do you think, like your brother, that the blacks think they're better than everybody?
No.
What do you think about blacks?
I think they're the same people. They're the same thing, only different color.
When they say we're not racist, and this is not a racist community, and some of my friends are black, and I've worked with blacks, is that true?
Well, it's true that they will respond that way. Racism, again, it's a charge. You see, you're accusing them of being bad people. They will always say, we are not bad people. They also will accuse the media of being duplicitous. You're trying to blame us for something. We never owned slaves. We've only been here for 25 years, 20 years, etc. We didn't create this environment, etc. And in a sense, they're very much they're right. However, none of this excuses the response to people. They're trying to distance themselves from something which they're not directly responsible for. But I think everybody in New York City shares a responsibility for what happened to Yusuf Hawkins.
First tonight, the killing that has gripped New York City and raised questions about the.
If you watch the news now, it's literally the same order of storytelling where they badger the non-woke person who stands for something, and then they cut to some sort of super liberal academic, and then they tell you why being non-woke is the non-moral thing. It's literally the same thing they do today. It's crazy.
Yeah, but people
television programming.
Yeah, it's there's an old quote where it's like having a TV is like having a Jew in your living room.
Damn.
You.
Right. Fuck.
The state of race relations in cities throughout the country. The crime occurred in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, a white, predominantly working-class neighborhood of New York. Today in Brooklyn, funeral services were held for Yusuf Hawkins, a 16-year-old black youth who was shot to.
And if he wouldn't got killed by a white man, they had balloon release. About 30 people showed up to balloon release, and then maybe 50 people at his funeral.
Death last Wednesday night. Police say 30 white teenagers armed with baseball bats and at least one gun attacked Hawkins and his 3 companions, thinking that Hawkins had come to the neighborhood to date a local girl. But Hawkins didn't know the girl. He'd come to Bensonhurst with his friends to look at a used car. Today, an hour before the Hawkins funeral, 2 white teenagers were indicted on murder charges related to the incident. 4 other white teenagers have been released on bail. and police are still looking for the suspected gunman. In the aftermath of the killing, racial tensions in Bensonhurst and New York City have mounted. Local marches organized by civil rights groups have drawn anger from the community.
Why should the whole community be indicted and maligned and called racist for the acts of one individual? These people are good people. This is a good community, and there are not racists in this community.
This is not racist community. We just don't like black people. That's all.
My son will never turn this corner again.
No, he won't.
Only because of this, the pigment of his skin. Do you understand that? This is what America must learn. That we are no longer going to take this.
We turn now to four people with different views on the killing and the underlying racial tension.
Does he have to go to that corner?
Yeah, I mean,
the thing about some people is they're like parasites. Like they always go where they're not wanted, and it's
well, they go where the stuff is.
Pardon me?
They follow the money. That's how some people get access to the first world standard of living, is following other groups and then berating them for their, supposed moral insufficiencies.
Yeah, it's like parasitic behavior.
Well, they're not really wanted anywhere though. So it's like, how could you say that they go where they don't? Like,
no, well, if you have sons in a Sun neighborhood and they're doing their own thing, they're going to eventually be jealous and miserable, and they're going to want to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
It is misery. Yeah, living. They don't really like it. You give a Sun man $1 million, he's gone from the black community.
Tensions in New York and elsewhere. Father Charles Vermelia, assistant pastor of St. Dominic's Roman Catholic Church in Bensonhurst. The Reverend Herbert Daughtry, pastor of the House of the Lord Pentecostal Church in Brooklyn. Ralph Blumenthal, a New York Times reporter who's been covering the Bensonhurst shooting, and Clarence Page, a columnist for the Chicago Tribune and frequent essayist on the NewsHour. Ralph Blumenthal, is this right that there is no explanation but naked racism for this killing? Is that
it seems
right?
So. As a matter of fact, the killing itself is enveloped.
Can you stop it real quick?
We have not gotten an explanation from the police or any of the witnesses or survivors as to.
All right, so before we even get into this, I'd like to talk about how Jews frame these news segments. This is a 3-on-1. You've got two sons and a Jew, right? So they're already setting it up to where the talking points are going to lead to bullying in one direction. And they do this all the time on CNN, Fox, depending on what the topic is. This is how they set these things up. This is all rigged, and it's all meant to go one way. This is not an honest debate or discussion.
Exactly what happened when these two groups confronted each other. It's just unknown.
But so far nobody has come up with any explanation which would mitigate the charge that this was a racist killing. Is that
Absolutely
correct?
not. The only thing people have said is that he was mistaken for someone going to visit this white girl, as if that would be an excuse.
Reverend Daughtry, how do you see it?
I see it as a racial motivated killing for several reasons. Number one, there were racial epithets used. There in this neighborhood, and I by no means, and I don't know too many other people who have characterized the entire neighborhood as racist. But in this neighborhood, there have been other acts. About a year ago, we marched in the same neighborhood when two brothers, the Lamont brothers, were attacked. This same neighborhood produced about a year or so ago, pardon me, a leaflet urging not to sell to Asians. And as we have witnessed from the marches, which is a kind of way of exposing, we have the last remark I thought was rather humorous.
Well, you laughed, didn't you? They said, we aren't racist, we just hate blacks.
We just hate blacks, but we're not racist. And it seemed to me that speaks volume to the situation.
Yeah. Father Familia, this is your parish. How do you see it?
I think it's important to get an understanding of what type of neighborhood we're dealing with, that it is a rather insular neighborhood People know each other. There are networks of families and friends, and there are what we would call gangs of youths. Gangs not in a negative sense, but rather in the sense that they hang out with each other, and they have certain territories within the neighborhood which they guard. And sometimes they guard them. They feel that if they're being muscled in upon, they react by having a brawl. And very often they brawl with other gangs, so to speak, within the neighborhood, not necessarily blacks.
You mean along ethnic lines? Or?
Right. But rather those who are from, let's say, 20th Avenue as opposed to 13th Avenue or as opposed to 18th Avenue. And I believe that one thing that has to be kept in mind is that these boys, and this is where I would disagree with you, I think never expected that was going to happen, that the Hawkins boy was going to be killed and shot, because at the element of the alleged killer of the Fama boy is an element which was outside of that particular gang. He heard there was a brawl, he entered upon the scene, he came and he shot the boy, unbeknownst to those who were expecting a brawl.
Mm-hmm. Clarence Page, looking at it from Chicago, how do you view it from all you've read and seen about it?
Well, certainly there are people in New York who justifiably view this as a New York problem, and in many ways, of course, it is a community-based problem, but it resonates across the country. Incidents like this, either directly or vaguely somewhat like it, have occurred across the country. Various organizations have tallied dozens of incidents of interracial conflict. The Southern Poverty Law Center, just for one example, cited almost 200 in 1988, about half of those against blacks, the rest against Jews, Asians, white sympathizers, as they categorize it, homosexuals, Hispanics, Native Americans. What is really depressing about this, to me, is that we're talking about a mob, a lynch mob-like activity. However, whatever started it, whether it was one of those kind of urban turf battles we're accustomed to with teenagers, it evolved into a mob that was out hunting for somebody who looked black or Hispanic. And apparently Yusef Hawkins happened to turn up at the wrong place at the wrong time. Now that resonates across the country, certainly with blacks and other minorities, people who, as hard as they may try to avoid high crime neighborhoods, as hard as they may try to avoid trouble, can still find themselves, because of the color of their skin, being in jeopardy. So it's more than a New York problem, it's everybody's problem.
How do you, having covered the neighborhood a lot, Ralph, how do you assess what is being called racism in Bensonhurst?
Well, I think the reactions of some of the anti-demonstrators, the counter-demonstrators, was pretty revealing, holding up watermelons and shouting racial epithets. You know, often people who are racist or prejudiced, and the terms are being used interchangeably, although there is a difference, racism is much more ingrained, they don't recognize themselves as such, or they refuse to confront it or admit it. So they do this, and they hold up these terrible symbols, and yet they deny that they are biased. I think it shows that there are neighborhoods in this city where blacks are not welcome. We've perhaps not written enough about it.
And almost every black neighborhood, everybody's not welcome. Like, no, who's welcome in a black neighborhood at night?
Nobody.
Like,
no matter who you are.
No matter who you are. But if you're a white guy walking down a black neighborhood at night, you're a Vic. If you're an Asian guy or on burrito, people are looking at you like a victim, like it's Christmas. They're looking at you like it's Christmas. So it's like, yeah, man, like, the fuck is this guy talking about?
He's just a lying Jew.
Bensonhurst is a very homogeneous.
Yeah,
that's all he is.
Community is the other.
And he did hit him with the old. Of course, you don't think you're racist, but you are. Like,
yeah, I mean, his group is the most xenophobic, violent, racist group of people that's ever walked the face of the earth.
Yeah, this is crazy, man. This is nasty work.
As I've said, whites are blacks are often looked on as interlopers. They're to do no good. And there are other neighborhoods like that in New York. We saw it in Howard Beach,
where there was a killing of a black.
Where there was a killing, a black was chased out and chased to his death because he was seen suddenly as someone who didn't belong in that neighborhood. He must have been there for some illicit purpose.
Does that ring true to you, Father?
No, I would disagree. I think that the mob that was outside of near the demonstration shouting out the things they were shouting were not indicative of the entire neighborhood. There were circa 250, 300 who were shouting. I have 3,500 families in my parish. There are 6 parishes within the area. Those people who came to the mob are those who are, I believe, of the basest stratum of the neighborhood, who are attracted to mob scenes. And so they came and they expressed themselves, but they are not indicative of the entire neighborhood.
What about Mr. Blumenthal's perhaps wider or deeper point that in this era, a quarter of a century after the civil rights laws were passed, and we thought we were moving beyond a lot of these attitudes, that people are racists and yet don't believe that they're racists?
No one wants to be labeled.
Yeah.
And I think that's why much of the neighborhood may be acting defensively, because they don't want to be labeled racist. And so what they want to do, I believe, is to maintain a place where they can live amongst their own people as they lived amongst their own people in their land of origin, that is Italy. It gives them meaning to their lives. Anyone who is not of the neighborhood, anyone who is not of the same cultural background is feared. Okay, and I think perhaps that is where the basis of racism comes into question.
Yeah.
Robin, I must say this though: if a Jew had walked through that neighborhood, or an Irish American, or a member of any other white ethnic group, he would not have been immediately targeted, I would say.
I think Hawkins came into the neighborhood at that time of night because he felt comfortable enough to. And very often there are blacks who come into the neighborhood, walk down the neighborhood.
Yeah, Jew, acting like he's the first black person to ever walk through there. Like, one black guy in like 100 years got killed in Bensonhurst.
Yeah, you just got to understand where the Juice Crew comes from and their ideology and why they do this. It's a deep-rooted hatred for gliders. It has nothing to do with trying to make the world more just or yada, yada, yada. It's Juice Crew hates glider people because glider people won't let Juice Crew have their way with the world. Glider people have kicked Juice Crew out of their countries for hundreds of years, and they hate it.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right, fisherman.
And there's no problems.
The thing that's just so bothersome to me is I think you touched on it. Nobody's racist. People get killed, but this is not racist. They just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They just happen to be in the neighborhood. People just didn't understand them. They had a little fear, but nobody's racist. When it's so clear, so obvious from the television, from the newspaper, what came across were these persons and their words and their behavior was indisputably racist. But they're different kind of racists. You have a subtle racist. Of course, they wouldn't do these bad, wicked things. They wouldn't get out on the street corner. They'll simply just go along with the program.
But they don't want blacks in the neighborhood.
They don't want blacks in the neighborhood. You see, all Asians, they'll disseminate material through the neighborhoods. All Asians stay out, you see. But they wouldn't dare say that to be racist. The same thing in Howard Beach. Judge Dukakis stated in Howard Beach, he said the thing that was most distressing to him, this is when Michael Griffith was chased onto the highway, the thing that was distressing to him, that of the thousands of letters he received, not one letter expressed remorse for what had happened. Not one.
Salute to Mayo Monkey, man. Mayo Monkey in the building, man. Long time supporter, long time member, man. Mount Rushmore. Shout out to Mayo Monkey. Gentle Savage says, Owen Benjamin made an Instagram post saying that the LA fires were probably caused by a black person forgetting to change the batteries in his phone.
One letter. That is distressing. It is distressing because there is not going to be any recovery, any reconciliation until there's the recognition of a problem.
But that is not the case in Bensonhurst. I believe there's quite a lot of remorse and sympathy that's been expressed by
quite so many people.
And a lot of people are in the community are outraged that some people in the community appear to have done this. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that's why that the community does not want to be branded because of the action of a few, nor do they want to be branded because of the reaction of this mob. which
then they must come forward. The other people have to come forward now and put forth the other point of view and counterpose themselves against the extremists.
Precisely.
If I may, pardon me, if the good people, the decent people, and I subscribe to that. I subscribe to Dr. King. The tragedy of Birmingham was not what bad people did, but that good people did nothing. I subscribe to Burke. All that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good people to be silent. If the good people in Bensonhurst would have come out last year when we marched through that neighborhood, when the Lamont brothers were attacked, if the good people would have sent a clear, unmistakable message across that community, across the city, we will not tolerate this. Perhaps, just perhaps, Yusef would be alive. They did this in Park Slope. Park Slope in Brooklyn, a young lad named Akeem Davis was attacked. The whites in Park Slope organized themselves, marched to their own community, denouncing bias-related violence. I have not heard of any other violent incident. The good people, that's in my article. I've been challenged. That's the challenge that I laid out when I marched.
And hundreds of white people get attacked in these black neighborhoods all the time, robbed. They call it a robbery, but the person, at the end of the day, the person got attacked. You know what I mean? Knockout game, all this shit. There's
Yeah,
no
you could
black
literally sit there and go down the list of events for days.
You know how many white people get robbed in black neighborhoods and it doesn't make the news?
Yeah, you could have this segment literally every hour of every day with a different set of people in a new event for
Yeah,
eons.
but some people think that it's the fact that it's not racist doesn't make it as bad, you know? Some people
Right. It was just a robbery. Yeah, but
Yeah,
then
but I mean, like, you got to hold their feet to the fire and you got to expose them for their double standards and their actual, like, rabid bigotry. And as soon as you do that, for the normies that watch this kind of bullshit, it would help break the shackles of the fake narrative. It's like, oh, these people aren't for equality at all. These people are for privilege and they enjoy victimizing us and they don't see a problem with it. And they're actually, perpetuating. I had no idea they were perpetuating all this crime and these sucker punches and the carjackings. You said how many cars were stolen? What? Like, people, generally speaking, don't have a good grasp of this.
Yeah.
We went for memorial service. That is always the challenge. Where are the decent people? Let them go. There's a woman, Elizabeth Galaza, that was demonstrated the tenderness. I've been in touch with her.
She was the one who held the hand of the dying boy. Yeah.
That's right. And they were organizing memorial service the other night, turned into something else. But they are good people. When I walk through that community, I begin to give thumbs up sign, V for victory sign. There were people who looked out of the windows and held their hands back up. So I, for one, I'm not indicting the entire community, Father.
Let's widen this out a little bit and go back to Clarence Page. Ralph Blumenthal said there are parts of New York where blacks are not welcome. How common is that in other cities, in Chicago and in other cities across the country?
Well, I'm sort of experiencing deja vu all over again here, Robin. I've been hearing for many years that it certainly is true. First of all, there is de facto apartheid by community, by neighborhood in our big cities and many of our small towns for that matter, sometimes entire towns, as we've seen in some unfortunate cases. Black people had better be reluctant to go into them day or night. That still exists in the 1980s is truly a tragedy for which we all must take some responsibility. The deja vu.
How does this fucking uppity ass Ivy League Negro know that there's a bunch of neighborhoods that black people? I don't know of any in DC. I don't know of, listen, I don't know. I've never heard of a black, I heard of sundown towns on the internet, but I've never heard of a black person that actually knew talk about anything like that. Like, of not being welcome in a white neighborhood. Now, I've heard that people are assholes sometimes, and people did rude shit, or somebody said something. Yeah, I've heard of those incidents, but like, man, don't go here, man, because white people over there. Not because the police is over there, because the white people over there are rich, and the police patrol that neighborhood. No, but like, don't go over there because some white dude gonna run up on you with static. I never heard that, man. I've never heard of that, man. Like, yeah, stay away from there. Them white dudes, man, they gonna confront you and try to fight you. And I don't know, man. It's a wives'
I
tale.
told you it was
In
going to be
school,
a
I experienced
301 thing.
Yeah.
Well, we had
Wives.
situations like Philly back in the day. In South Philly, you better not go across some tracks. They'll wear your ass out.
Okay, now in those incidents, now is it like don't go over there bullshitting or just don't go over there, period?
Just don't go over there, period. That's how it was back in the day. It's not like that now, but you know, the so-called blacks, they knew better than to cross those tracks, you know. Or they were fitting for ass whipping.
Okay, so now would they go over there? Like, are we talking about regular blacks? Or are we talking about like thugged out street blacks?
No, just regular blacks. Like they would not cross those tracks. You could talk to a lot of the old heads, from back in the day. Like they'll tell you, like, yo, we never went, no, nobody ever went across those tracks, man. We knew better. Like they did not allow you in that neighborhood, and that was, that was mostly in an Italian neighborhood. They would not let you across those tracks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there you go.
There's probably no carjackings over there either.
Well, yeah, this was back in the day. You talking like the 70s or the early to mid 70s, 60s, around that time. It's not like that now.
Yeah, I mean, now of course we know that's a reason. There's a reason they didn't want blacks over there. Do you think there's a reason, or you think it was just like the color of their skin or the texture of their hair why they didn't want them around?
No, listen, it was their neighborhood. They protected their neighborhood. And it was the same with them. Like they knew better than to cross the tracks on the other side to come into that neighborhood. But now now you see it. Everybody gets along. It's no issues. Got everybody living everywhere now. So,
Why is keeping blacks out your neighborhood called protecting your neighborhood?
because we all know what they do and what they prone to do.
So keeping blacks out and protecting are one and the same. That's deep, man. That's crazy.
I've been hearing for years that, well, everybody in the community is not bad. It's not a racist neighborhood. There's a few bad apples, but the rest of it is good people. We heard that here on the southwest side in the Marquette Park area when Dr. Martin Luther King was hit in the head with a brick 20 years ago. The fact that we're still experiencing this sort of neighborhood apartheid 20 years later indicates that we can't just call these isolated incidents anymore. After Howard Beach, after situation in Bensonhurst, after the many others we've seen, and even I'm not going to discount black on white violence, but that tends to be so much the exception, it seems, in the long run. We do have a community-based problem.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
That was the biggest, that was the most ridiculous thing said so far on this fake panel.
Majority of the robberies committed by black people are committed against white people. The majority, because we think y'all got money, and the majority of the carjackings are committed against women or white people.
You think so, Ike? Because some people victimize some people at incredible rates.
Yeah, but when I'm talking about like carjacking, rolling up on somebody, grabbing them and putting the gun to, that usually happens outside of you. The dudes ain't really doing that to the dudes in their neighborhood like that.
No, man. Some words are definitely robbing. They're shitting where they eat. Put it like that.
No, I'm not talking about shooting, but I'm saying like robbing their homeboy. Like most people get carjacked are like people that's not in the game.
No, yeah. But what I'm saying is, like a regular sister going to work,
Yeah, I
boom,
said
get
women.
robbed.
I said women and white people. Yeah, women and white people.
Okay, my fault.
Yeah, definitely. Women definitely gonna get it because they eat their wheat.
That we're seeing all over the country.
Father Familia, you told our reporter Alison France today something that interested me, and that was that a lot of people in your neighborhood have the idea, because they're fed it by the media, that blacks are, that crime has a black face, and they tend to stereotype blacks, particularly young black men, as either involved in drugs or crime, and if they see one, that's the automatic reaction.
Yes, I believe. Yeah, I believe that is the issue. Yes, the good people of the neighborhood could come out on force and do something symbolic, but I think
not symbolic, something substantial.
Substantial. All right, a symbol that is substantial, because symbols can speak.
I'm talking about something substantive. You seem to be talking about symbols and. I'm sorry. I'll go.
So perhaps a gesture of grief, because there is expression of grief. But the problem lies with the media. If you want to deal with this, if I were a black pastor, I would be upset that every day an atrocity story is shown in the newspapers about someone in my neighborhood. Every day. And so you hear one day a woman throws her baby out of the second-story window. Where is it? Crown Heights. Someone rapes a kid on top of a building. Where is it? Jamaica.
You're talking about black neighborhood or Hispanic neighborhood.
Right, exactly.
Jamaica, Queens.
Exactly. And what is happening? In fact, the very day after the article on racism, they had a picture on the front of the Times showing black youths who were found with so many cases of cocaine. Why is it that the media is continuously centering in on the black and portraying the black as someone who cannot live in society? This is being fed to our youth. This is being fed to us, and the perceptions about the black community become reality. You see, it's in the paper. Now, there are atrocities all over the place. Why is the media centering on the black? And unless that changes...
Mr. Blumenthal, as a member of the media?
Speaking for the media, well, I would say that it's a fact that a disproportionate amount of violent crime is committed by young black youth. That is a statistic, and there are many reasons to explain that: disadvantaged background, lack of education, poverty.
Yeah, I told you he was gonna. He'll spin it back on Whitey. They're a wicked people, man. This is no different than a sucker punch. Like, this is a Jewish sucker punch we're watching.
Wow.
And what he's doing is not illegal, right? It's just a matter of, can he word it well enough to where you believe him, and that's where their power lies.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
It's disingenuous, it's malicious, it's not illegal.
You ready?
Etc. That is a fact, and I think that is a perception that one cannot totally discount in neighborhoods like Bensonhurst.
What about just oppression and suppression, keeping them under? Don't you think that's part of it?
I don't know. I mean, in this case, certainly there was no threat from Yusuf Hawkins and his friends, so there could be no suggestion there that these kids were up to no good in that neighborhood, and that there was any reason for the neighborhood to gang up against them.
Let me play devil's advocate here and bring in Clarence Page, who's in Chicago. Isn't it also true that over the last couple of decades that the presence on television particularly and in the newspapers of blacks who are figures, who are symbols of success in American life, have become at least as frequent as those who could be identified with crack or violent crime and so on?
Well, we've certainly seen
Willie Horton. No, Clarence Page.
Well, we've certainly seen some positive images coming across in the media, more so than we saw 30 years ago when there were, for example, no black anchors on TV news programs to speak of. But the problem is we're dealing with a new generation that doesn't have a sense of history. doesn't have a sense of guilt about the past. If anything, if you have white youngsters who are not educated into the history of the roots of these problems that so many black communities suffer, when they see middle-class black success, all they say is, well, look, they're doing fine. I'm still in a working-class neighborhood. What are they griping about? And if you're not careful, you can really have more resentment building up. I think at bottom, what we're talking about here is the fact that communities are losing touch with each other rather than having more dialogue and talking with each other. I think Reverend Daughtry is really talking about the fact that in Bensonhurst has been such a concern with keeping its community intact and taking care of its internal affairs that it has forgotten it's in a pluralistic society and it does have to deal with other communities, and it can deal with them in a hostile way or it can deal with them in a peaceful way. This Yusef Hawkins incident may be isolated in itself, but if it happens again and again, then it becomes more and more difficult for other people, good people in the community, to say, I'm not racist, I wash my hands of it.
Gentlemen, I have to interrupt. We have used up our time for this. I'm sorry to tell you. Father Familia and Reverend Daughtry, Ralph Blumenthal, Clarence Page, thank you all for joining us.
Oh, Luke, man. Great show. Any final thoughts, man?
Today I learned I'm a Catholic, atheist, Jew.
Wow. What a combination. Any final thoughts from anybody?
Good show as usual. Always a pleasure. Shout outs to the chat. Shout outs to the panel.
Same
and
black
keep your foot on
time.
their neck, fisherman.
Same black channel. Oh, out of here. Peace out.